So this week we had Michael Corrigan in from Trtl. That was I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation with Michael.
I think it's great to see someone who's started a company and actually really successful with it, and just to get an insight into what that's like. I think sometimes when you look at someone like Michael who's really successful in what he's done, you can assume that he's always been that way. So it's been good to hear his journey.
Yeah, to go from the beginning of the story that he has to selling 1 million units of that product. I think it's a singular product, right? So that was kind of the backbone of the company, and now he's diversified that product range. But it's really fascinating to see a product that comes out of Scotland that has been so successful with such an international audience, and I think he embodies the sort of personality and the sort of the motivation of somebody that you would expect in the position that he's in. But it's very interesting to see that story of how he got there and the things that he's had to do to get into the position that he so clearly fits.
Yeah, it was definitely a great conversation. I feel energized from talking to him, so I'm hoping that you listening to this will get the same inspiration from it.
Yeah, I think anybody that hears the story from him and listens to that, especially even if it's a product or if it's a software product or just a general business idea, will be able to have an insight into the business development that you wouldn't get anywhere else. I thought it was a really excellent podcast, and I look forward to hearing some feedback on it.
Yep, enjoy. Michael, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all. So for our audience that don't know who you are, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the company that you run?
Sure. So I'm Michael, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Trtl. So we're a brand that focuses on helping you sleep when you travel. We believe that if you can rest during the journey, you'll be awake and ready for the moments when you arrive. The first product that we created and launched was the reinvention of the travel pillow, so the Trtl pillow. It's scientifically proven to provide better ergonomic neck support than a U-shaped pillow. Pack's really small, so it's really easy to carry, which is important when you travel, and it looks like a scarf when you wear it as well, so a bit more like discreet than the U-shaped pillows in the market. And yeah, so we kind of launched the company after graduating from university, worked part-time or full-time, and then full-time on this as well as we kind of grew things and developed it. And then I think probably 2015 was kind of our breakthrough year, and then last year was pretty big for us. We sold our 1 millionth unit in November.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so thank you. So we sold into over 100 countries, done it entirely online. So for a product that's meant to be sold in airports, essentially, we did it all online.
Okay.
And yeah, so just kind of looking to continue to grow and develop the brand, and we're kind of growing the portfolio of products and stuff, and continuing to be creative and entrepreneurial and passionate and excited about what's going to happen in the future.
That's awesome. How did the idea come to be? How did the first pillow come into fruition?
So to go right back to the start, I think so we started the company kind of right out of university, but I think we were all quite restless individuals, and I think in many ways, like, to be employed by people, I think back to like being a boy and like just being not a total, but a bit of a pain for mum and dad, and like just kind of asking lots of questions and stuff, and same thing as a student, same thing as an employee, and I think we were always kind of just searching for what would really chime with us in terms of what we wanted to do with life and stuff. And I think studying mechanical engineering in Scotland, you have the main choices are oil and gas and energy and maybe a bit of automotive and aviation and stuff. Yeah. That didn't really chime with us, and one day an entrepreneur came in and spoke to our class, and the thing that really struck us was he had so many stories and he'd been on so many adventures, and we thought that was awesome. He'd really built a company where people want to be a part of it and were better for being a part of it as well, so that kind of company culture and stuff. So we're just massively inspired by that, so we wanted to start a business. And then the summer after graduation, there was an entrepreneurial bootcamp where it was a really high level for how to go and start a business, because being engineers we could make things and design things, but we didn't really know anything about marketing or selling. So that was a week-long bootcamp during the summer, and a week before it we still didn't know what we wanted to do as a business, but we needed to take an idea into it. And
so this is kind of like an incubator program in the university.
It was kind of like, it was separate to it. So it was run by the Scottish Institute for Enterprise.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, just like they ran this kind of boot camp, and it was maybe like 3 or 4 days. And then as an initial block, and then one day, like 4 weeks later, and one day, the final kind of day, which was a pitching competition and stuff, which we came second in and won £250, by the way, which was pretty fun.
But you were delighted at the time.
You've no idea. Yeah, it was good in our suits and stuff. Just kind of, it was good fun. But we needed an idea to take into that, and a week before it, we didn't really know what we wanted to do. And then we were sitting in the Costa Coffee in Royal Exchange Square in Glasgow, brainstorming, and both of us had been away traveling. I'd done some of the kind of Euro railing stuff, and I specifically remember a journey where it was going between Venice and Florence, and just like being upright in a seat, being terrified someone was going to steal my bag, couldn't get comfortable at all, 10 hours in a train, and arriving in Florence, and like, so we were just talking about Italy, like if you want to go to Italy, like Florence is beautiful, like stunning city, and it's like you walk out the train station and it's literally it's Renaissance architecture, it's beautiful, different smells, different language, obviously, just total this sensory experience, kind of sensory overload. And I remember walking out of the train station and just being absolutely knackered and not enjoying it really, and kind of going to the hostel and just kind of resting a wee bit. And it annoyed me because I wanted to try and get as much out of that trip as I could have. And so the conversation started to kind of turn to like travel pillows, and we felt that surely as engineers we could design something better, and it came from there. And then it was really just like a couple of years of just trying to work out what the product would actually be. The bootcamp was really good for understanding what the market would be like and how big it was, and it was growing. It was interesting. And I think one of the reasons why we came second in the pitching competition was we'd really done our market research, so we knew there was an opportunity, and we kind of we again both worked. I worked in Aberdeen for a bit, for 2 years to the day actually, and then I was to like in August 2012. We then got into an incubator space in Glasgow, then, and we kind of launched at an Edinburgh Christmas market in 2012, where we basically kind of handmade all the product. There was a kind of communal workshop that we went to called Mac Lab, which is unfortunately not here anymore. So we went and made all the kind of internal supports and stuff like that there, CNC'd everything, had to like essentially hand taper and hand carve the edges to take the edges off all the products and stuff like that. Had someone help us sew all the products and stuff that we sold, and I think we sold like 130 units in like 6 days at this Christmas market.
Do you still have any of the original units?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I've got a proper, I've not got it on display yet in the office, but it's going to go on display in the office. The first prototype is awful, but it's really cool just to see the evolution of it all.
Yeah. At what point did you incorporate the company, and what point did you start trading? Was it for this competition originally, as part of SIE?
So because we came second in the competition, we were invited to like the kind of, there was this big event. It was called the Growth Fund Awards, and it was run by the Prince's Trust, the Prince's Scottish Youth Business Trust, which again is not here anymore. And we were invited to that. So basically, us and the winner got invited, and then we were introduced to them. They were running a pilot fund called an Innovation Fund, and it was like a really low interest loan. And then we pitched to that, got some of the money, not all of the money, but some of it. And to get the money, we had to have a business bank account, and therefore we incorporated the company. So that happened in 2010, but it was really a journey of like 2 years to get to a point where we felt we had something that we could take to market, and then kind of took it from there.
You're your story is fascinating for me because your focus is in the subject that you studied. So you've developed a product, but you come from an engineering background, so you've not come up with an idea and then gone to a company or gone to somebody else to develop it, which a lot of the time you hear is a kind of a common trend, is that you've maybe come from a business or a marketing or a different background. You come up with an idea and then you seek how to develop that idea using other people's knowledge, whereas you are the one with the knowledge of engineering. You're the one that had the idea, you're the one that's gone through the whole prototyping stage yourself. You haven't had to outsource that. Do you think that made a big difference to the way that you approached it?
Definitely. I think understanding the core subject matter of what you want to do is really important. I think that I think engineering is a great thing to study because I think there's almost like two types of thinking in the world. I think there's rational thinking, which is kind of like it's almost like they did it this way, therefore we should do it that way.
Yeah.
It worked for them, therefore it worked for us, which is not true because things change. And then there's like first principles thinking, so really boiling it down to what are people doing right now, what's happening right now, because one of the variables in anything is like the moment in time and how has the landscape changed? Like how people take a product to market 50 years ago compared to today.
Yeah.
And what the optimal route is changes with time, and I think that engineering skill set is really good for that, and really good for that way of thinking, because you can apply it not just to engineering problems but just any problem. But then one of the things that I'm quite proud of is I think I can work problems very well, and I'll throw myself into the thing. And I'll spend hours and hours and hours understanding the thing. And what we realised there was a big opportunity around e-commerce, because it was just you'd make more money, so it's higher margin. Rather than waiting 90 days to get paid, you get paid instantly almost. And you can build a relationship with a customer because you're close to the customer. So once we understood there was an opportunity there, it became a journey of like, okay, how do we get the word out there about our brand and product digitally? And I really spent a lot of time understanding that, and I mean watching hundreds of hours of video. Like that's what I spent weekends doing, like between like 2013, 14, 15 into 16, and still do too much probably. But like so that I think that was the thing, was that I remember reading a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, and it's a great book, and what I like about it is that a lot of business books are opinions, and his is more based on statistics, and there's comparison companies, and this company did really well and this company did okay, why is that? And there's maybe 20 examples of that in different industries. So there's more statistics there, and there's his interpretation of the stats, which is kind of his opinion, but there's still stats
based
there.
On something.
So like one of the things he talked about was that to really be a great company, you need to really own your core competencies, right? So we knew from the beginning that we wanted to be a brand, and we wanted to create products and sell them really well, and therefore we knew the first part, and that's an eternal journey of refining that process. But we had to learn the second part, and it was going on that journey to learn that second part.
Did you, I mean, you haven't explicitly said it yet, but it seems like everything that kind of led you to the travel pillow was based on your experiences of shitty travel. And it's funny because I'm the same as yourself. I've had experiences of long haul train journeys, long haul flights, and every single time your first 1 or 2 days are ruined because you've had a lack of or an awful sleep on the journey. But everyone that I've seen that's ever tried to do something with a travel pillow has taken exactly the same approach. It seems to be this very heavy style travel pillow that wraps around your neck, takes up a lot of space. And as anybody that travels knows, you don't have a lot of space when you're traveling light, or you don't want to have this thing that you use twice on a journey that's hanging about your bag. Was there when you were going through the process of coming up with the product, how did you balance how did you come up with the idea of, was that a core component that you wanted to achieve, was a smaller product, or how did you get there?
So we just ranked what they did simply. So the design process was like, what did they do? Well, they tried to be supportive. So it was like, I guess the attributes we gave it was supportive, comfort, which is linked to support, and then how easy is it to carry?
Yeah.
And those were the kind of three things. And we looked at inflatable pillows.
Yep.
And they were like, so in that easy to carry part, because the compact's so small, like that's like 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. But then, they're maybe not as supportive, and they're maybe therefore not as comfortable. And then for the more memory foam ones, it was a case of like, maybe they're a bit more supportive and therefore a bit more comfortable, but they're quite difficult to carry.
Yeah.
So they rank higher here, but less here.
Okay.
So we looked at that and we thought, okay, we need to beat them on all these things. And then we thought about how do we redefine the problem, and people care about what they look like. And we felt, well, what else do people wear around their necks? And then it was like, oh, scarves. And then we felt, okay, so if we can start to do something here and make it look really good, then we're not competing in the same, we create something different, we're not competing on price. It's it's the whole kind of cliche business chat around like it's not a red ocean, it's a blue ocean and all this kind of stuff. So that was literally the thinking.
Okay. And when you first brought that product to market, what was your first experience of bringing that to a customer? Because obviously you'd have been selling it to friends and family, or you'd have been showing it to friends and family, but what was the experience like when you first, because we've spoken to a lot of people who have got products that are digital products, but very few people that have had a physical product. And for me, it's a fascinating space because you've had this thought in your mind, you've gone through a process of ideation, which has come up with this final thing, and then you have to physically give it to somebody. Mm-hmm. So what was that experience like?
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
So like because I remember because people can be, you don't really understand what the market thinks about a thing until you find enough of the people to really get a proper sample size.
Yeah.
And I remember the first guy that I tried to sell the product to at the Edinburgh Christmas market, and he was a Geordie, and I put it on him, and he was like, I helped him put it on, and he was like, I'd rather have the window in the bus, mate. And like, so that stuck with me. But there was 15 other people directly after that were like, this is really good, this is really different, this is really interesting, why is that? And it was just much more positive.
Yeah.
But I think like the whole, anytime you're putting something, it's totally a mindset thing, and it's like, I can't stand when people talk about mindsets in a sense, because you can't just go, I'm okay with this, I've switched my mindset, I'm okay with this. But it's about becoming, just subjective and kind of distant, but not really distant, because you need to be really thoughtful about your listening to take the right quality of feedback from what they're saying. Yeah. But you do need to kind of, you need to get out there, and you need to kind of go through that process of getting the feedback to understand what a specific customer segment wants.
Did you get any specific feedback around the first time that you thought, okay, we need to implement this, like this is an obvious thing, or was it more a case of, no, I think we've got this? Was that
it was a bit mixed of both. Like, I remember doing like a focus group with a group of 20 people, and it was an accountancy firm in Glasgow that did it for us, and brought in a lot of staff and stuff like that, and it was like 20 people. And I remember like we spent like the whole weekend creating this prototype. Okay. And literally within the first 5 minutes, it was a 60-minute session. Mm-hmm. Like literally within the first 5 minutes it broke. And it was like 55 minutes of going, but can you imagine how this might work, right? Right. And like they just couldn't. But I think there was in moments like that, you were kind of just trying to tease out bits and pieces of what people were saying to understand what they might want. And there was definitely times where people said stuff where they were like, I don't want this, and it wasn't specifically about the product, but it was like, I value this, and I was like, you don't value that, you value this. Right? It was just kind of like, so you do need to kind of sort out stuff and kind of go with your gut. So yeah, like it was just kind of, I think it was a mixture of like, you know, I think it was a mixture of both. There was definitely times where we were like, no, there's definitely something in this, we need to persevere. Yeah. And there was times where actually, do you know what, that's a great idea. And it was a time in the incubator space where someone put it on, but they put it on upside down. And they were like, well, I love it. And they put it on and they used it for like 2 weeks. And they were like, oh no, I love it. And then we were like, oh, can you put it on for us? And they put it on upside down. And we were like, oh my God. And then we changed the product from there.
Oh, yeah?
It couldn't be put on upside down at that point, really. So we kind of, so it was stuff like that. You know, as wee bits and pieces like that, we were like, oh, that's really good. We need to change it. And actually that doesn't matter. That does. And that's what the value is. That's what it isn't. And it was just that kind of iterative process.
I think that's important to see it in the real world, to see it out in the wild and how people actually interact with something. Because I think sometimes if you're trying to get feedback from people that are maybe close to it, then they're biased in the way that they want it to be good and they want to give you good feedback, but you don't really learn anything from that. So from your experience of, I mean, focus groups, would you say that focus groups were better than actual customer feedback? I would imagine that customer feedback's better because they're actually experiencing it rather than sitting down with a group of people. And can you imagine this? It's not until you've actually gone through it that I feel like you would get any feedback that's based on anything.
I think it all has its place. I think it just depends on, like, you know, what, I mean, maybe it's the first time that you've ever created a product like it was for us, and your comfort levels are at a place where you want to do something in a bit of a safer space rather than go out into and spend maybe a lot of money and going to a Christmas market and getting feedback when you might not have the right thing. So I think in many ways it's about how do you commit the right amount at the right time to get the right level of feedback to allow you to make the next step in the journey. So I think, like, definitely customer feedback's more important, but focus groups have their place. It's just how you want to adjust the mix for what's optimal for you.
One of the things that I was kind of curious around, just from looking at the company and the history, is how much the brand was shaped by your experience, or how much your experiences shaped. That's the same question actually when I reword that in my head. But actually, okay, so what I'm trying to get at here is, when you first started out, you had a travel pillow, right? And naturally for me, when you look at a travel pillow, you would think you're selling to regular flyers, businessmen, businesswomen who travel back and forward. And then I look at your brand, which is very clearly it feels to me, I could be totally wrong, it feels to me very much like a lifestyle, anyone like traveler brand that, you know, maybe somebody that goes on one trip a year, but it doesn't matter because you can sleep anywhere and you might use this product in multiple places rather than just on a plane, which is quite a change in focus from what a traditional travel neck pillow would be marketed at. So was that your original intention, or did things shape the way that you decided you were going to approach selling this to people? Because I think your success comes from partially, obviously, the fact that you're not restricting yourself to the grey suit on the BA flight to London in the morning. You're kind of opened that up to everybody could use this. So was that the original intention, or did that get shaped through your experiences?
I think that was part of the challenge, because I think if you've got if you've got a more niche product, then you get to choose where it would go in a sense. And we didn't, and it was like, well, actually we could go and sell to these 40 different types of people, and this is how we would perhaps approach these different customer segments and stuff. I think that because of how we grew the brand online, it was much more like anyone could buy it. So the people who just wanted to sleep bought it. And you know, I think one of the things is that I think if you can, so this is the thing, is like sleep's a fundamental human need. It's not something that people kind of want to do, they have to do it. And therefore it's ubiquitous, and it's just about how you approach that market and stuff. And it's mass market, and you maybe never sell to 100% of the world. Really, because other people maybe don't like scarves, for example. Maybe, you know what I mean? So but you've still got, when you're solving kind of proper human needs,
Yeah.
then you do appeal to a bigger audience, I guess.
Did you find that the fact that your product was sold almost entirely online, that shaped the audience that you had?
Definitely.
Was it a younger audience? 'Cause I'm not sure. Was it younger, or is it like
So
middle or older? Where does
across
that?
the whole spectrum, but I would say it's slightly older. So we probably aim at between 13, 40-year-olds,
Okay.
right, in terms of the brand. And I would say from the data tells us it's between 35 to 45 is kind of the main one. So it's slightly
That's
skewed
interesting.
older. But it's the channel through which you market definitely defines the people that purchase it.
Yeah.
So we really did a lot of stuff online in 2016, 17, and the people that bought it were on that. Do you know what I mean? So it was like we were marketing more on Facebook,
Yeah.
and there was a bit more of an older audience there. Whereas if we were marketing more on Snapchat, it would have been like 25-year-olds or 20-year-olds at the time and stuff,
So
right?
younger, yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely shaped where we are and stuff and how we've grown. Definitely.
And you're not almost exclusively have your website, but you sell on Amazon quite heavily. So did you, when you first started selling on Amazon, did you make the decision we're gonna do this properly, we're gonna throw ourselves in this 100%, or did you think we'll do 50% here and we'll try and keep the website?
I think it's an ever evolving thing. Like you need to do. I do think at the start you've got very limited resource, and you've forever got limited resource. You just need to do the things that you're going to do deliberately very well.
Yeah.
But then it's 80-20. It's like, I'm going to focus on these things 80% of the time. But then so when the market shifts and something happens that I can never predict, I'm spending 20% of my time on other stuff.
Okay.
And therefore, hopefully, future-proofing yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's why, there's a bit more of, wanting to do a bit more offline retail and kind of more traditional retail.
Yeah.
To learn that space and stuff. And but yeah, like we did really well with our website. We did really well with Amazon, and I think we did really well with Amazon's because we aligned ourselves with that sales channel. But you should always align yourself with any sales channel you're in.
Yeah.
So in a traditional shop, it might just be a slightly different way. It's a different way of communicating to the customer.
Yeah.
What do people look for in shops versus what do people look for in an online retailer or an online shop, and then also what do the shops and the online retailers look for from their brands in their shops.
Yeah, because you'd have had to take, I'd imagine that because of the sales online, if that was the main focus, that would have shaped a number of things, such as you'd have had to look at packaging from a storage perspective and not from a presentation perspective, because you're not hanging it in a...
Yeah.
But then again, you're obviously making a decision that you'd have to reevaluate that if you were going to put yourself in stores. So you'd have to just jump into that decision and be like, no, we're going to do this. This is an online product for the moment.
Yeah, but I think it's about, I guess you can always change and always pivot.
Yeah.
So you just need to, I think when you make a decision, you need to make the decision and fully commit to it, because otherwise you never really know if it's going to work properly. If you kind of do it 50%, you're not really trying.
I think that's what I was kind of hoping to hear you say, was that you can change and you can pivot, because with a physical product, and this is I have no idea because I don't work in physical products, is it just as easy to change with physical stock, with physical units? Or is that like a huge decision, like if we're going to make a change to this product packaging or this product, then we really need to, or can you just do it?
You can just do it, right? But you do need to obviously think about, well, if you're getting, I think with this scale that we're getting to, then it becomes a bit more difficult, but hopefully you've got the sell through to help you be able to make those decisions.
Yeah.
If you've got tens of thousands of units sitting there and they're not selling, then you've got an issue. But I think there's pros and cons. I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people do things because the world's doing it that way. So it goes back to the whole, doing it work for them, or work for us versus the first principle stuff. I don't think necessarily it's easier to go and create a business through a software product. I think there's risk to that in ways. There's risk to that. there's different negatives to that versus a physical product. I actually think if you've got a physical product brand and you become like the choice for the consumer, then for a significant period of time you'll be the choice for the consumer. But equally, if you get enough scale with a software product, then you're just going to be the choice for the consumer. But it's not, I don't think it's necessarily easier to copy and stuff like that. I don't think it's and all these kind of things, you know what I mean? I think it's just about I think there's pros and cons to either or, but I do think there's kind of like shiny object syndrome of kind of like everyone does it like this, therefore we should do it like this. And actually, do you know what, I think part of the reason we've been successful is that we focused on making a physical product, and there was definitely people that looked past us when it was when we never did it, but we were looking at raising money at one point. And there was definitely people that weren't interested, because all they were interested in doing was investing in apps, because that's what people were doing in 2012, 13, 14. And that's interesting, because actually there's opportunity in that. So how do you find the headspace to be able to recognise that and stuff? And I think that whole thing is utterly fascinating to me.
So that kind of nicely ties into you started with this travel pillow scarf, and then you've got other products now. So was that always in your mind that we want to diversify what the brand is about, or did you recognise an opportunity and think, well, we've got a bit of innovation in this space, so where else within travel could we do something that's still related to that?
I think it was about like being so the pillow makes you, kind of puts you in more comfortable positions, so you're more comfortable. But it's about being able to sleep in the flight, or having the perfect conditions to sleep in a flight. It's not just about being comfortable, it's also about how noisy is it, how bright is it and stuff. So that's where, again, we've looked at, what's the temperature, how warm are you just now and stuff like that. So we're looking a lot at that. We just launched our packing pods, which is our take on packing cubes, which we're really excited about. It's also like our first product that's made from 100% fully recycled materials, because we're pushing towards that as well, because it's really important. And it's one of our values. So it was like, actually, does this really relate to sleep? But actually, do you know what, if you can pack stuff really easily and you can access it in a really easy way, and it's just a bit more manageable, then you're I can't stand packing, like it really stresses me out. So actually taking away that, because there's a peace of mind part as well. So we kind of, that's how that tied to the brand. It's just like, our whole brand is about, if you can rest during that journey, as more and more people are taking that journey, then you'll be ready for that moment when you arrive. And for an athlete, that might be, because we've got a few athletes who are brand ambassadors for us, that might be a big event. The Olympics is once every 4 years. You want to be your best for that, and you want to be as fresh. You want your muscles to be supple and flexible and ready to go, and also be in the right frame of mind to just go at that race. But equally, if you've been away travelling a lot and doing it for business, and you're coming back home like at Thanksgiving, and that's one of the few times every year that you get to spend with your family, you want to be able to enjoy that. So it ties in lots of nice ways with different segments. So
I was just going to say, I think there's maybe a few people here that have ideas for a product, and let's say they are the talent, like yourself and David when you started. What would you say should be, now that you've had that experience, what would you do differently about that first step? Because I think a lot of people have an idea for a product, and it never really gets beyond the idea stage. They might have the concept down, they have an idea of how they would market it, who they'd market it to, but I think for building a physical product, there's like this gap between where you're at and manufacturing that a lot of people can't do from their own circumstance. So how would you approach that?
So in terms of like just making the commitment and going for it?
Yeah, I mean more practically how to actually do that. So let's say you've committed in your mind, it's going to happen, you're deciding you're going to make it happen. How do you actually create a product?
I think I think what I would do now, knowing what we did, I think it's really important to back yourself. If you've got an idea, I think you owe it to yourself to try and see it through. I think a lot of people don't do a lot of these things because they worry about what other people think. And so I think it's really important to just go for it, because actually it doesn't matter what other people think, really. At all.
That, and people aren't thinking about you all the time.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
So it's bigger in our own minds, and it's bigger in our own minds versus what it is in reality. And then also be like incredibly open-minded as well, and be willing to take as much feedback as possible. And I think back to when David and I had discussions about what the product should be, and should that be the first product, and is that the right iteration of the first product? And we would swing back and forth on stuff and have long discussions about that, and it was really tiring, but ultimately that process is what helped us arrive at what we arrived at. I think we arrived at a really, really, really good answer. But that like process of being really decisive and really, you know, backing yourself and just being really persistent and determined, but also being really open-minded, at times they're in conflict with each other. They're opposites, right? So not in conflict, they're opposite in some senses, and because you swing back and forth and you're in tension a little bit between conflicting thoughts or opposite thoughts, then that can be kind of quite like tiring at times and quite draining and quite difficult. But I think you need to be, I think you owe it to yourself to go for it, because you won't know if you don't go for it.
I think one of the things that you said earlier on, which interested me, was you said that it was a founding principle to become a brand. And it's an interesting question for a lot of people when they start a business, of how important is the brand in comparison to the service of the product. Now, for me, looking at your organisation, you've always had a fairly consistent brand visual and a fairly consistent brand. Obviously, you've had the same name, you've had slight variations in the logo, but the teal colours stayed fairly consistent throughout your business. What would you say, is it a 50-50 ratio for you between importance of brand and importance of product, or is there a scale there that...
I think it goes hand in hand. I just think it goes hand in hand. I think anything that you do, like any sort of impression that you leave on a customer, is either builds your brand or detracts from your brand.
Okay.
And it's just about, so everything you do builds brand or takes away from the brand. I think it goes hand in hand. What we do is create really great products for that journey. And I think we do a really good job of conveying the message through the right mediums and the right way to people that would be interested in that. And we want to be, it's just about continuing to grow that brand and continuing on that journey, because I think we've got a long way to go on that journey.
See, we've actually used your brand on multiple occasions when we're speaking to clients about, for us it's a bit of an abstract one, not in a bad way, just the turtle itself, what the meaning behind that is, and if there is one. So we can tell you what because Nana had one that he thought was the reason behind it.
Well, what are yours then?
I've completely forgotten what I thought it was. So
okay, well I can tell then. So for me, I thought the turtle was a slow and sleepy creature, right? So that's why I thought that was the reason behind choosing a turtle. Whereas Nana thought it was because the turtle, when it pokes its head inside of its shell, its neck looks like the pillow.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Are either one of those true, or what was the reason behind the name and the turtle?
It's quite a bit. So it's a bit of a story, because it's quite personal as well. I think. So we sold at that Christmas market, and things were going really well. So we had proof of sales.
Yeah.
And so things were going really well. December 2012, sold our first products, validated the market, get really good feedback. Spent a lot of money, basically all of our money going to that market, made some money, back, which was good because we spent too much money on like t-shirts and banners and stuff like that. Honestly, one of the banners was like £700 and it was like, never again. Right. So seriously, we had to make that a success. So we did that. Things were going really well. We were offered a 6-figure sum of money in the business by an angel syndicate.
Fantastic.
Which is awesome, because it was like, wow. And that really wasn't happening like in 2012-13. We were on TV as part of like a documentary thing, which you can find if you look hard enough. And so that was really cool. And then we like blagged away into a party with Sir Richard Branson and stuff like that, and that was amazing. So we've got a lot of things from that and a lot of retail contacts and people were kind of reaching out to us. So a lot of good things were happening. And then we had a bit of a trademark issue because when we sold it at a Christmas market, it was a different brand.
Okay.
Right? It's a trademark issue. We were given some, I think, really bad advice, not the best advice from people. So we ended up owing like a few £1,000s for that, basically.
Okay.
That whole scenario. And then the investment took much longer than we thought it would. And I think as we went through that journey, we basically started to understand that we were not aligned with the people that were wanting to invest in us. So they didn't want the same things, right? Good people didn't want the same things as what we wanted. And the deal was actually going to close on the Monday, and then on the Friday I think the Thursday we had a proper long chat about it. And on the Friday we were sitting in, I think, Tony Roma's in the Italian Centre, and it was like £10 a meal, so it was 20 quid. It was really good.
Yeah.
And we decided to like walk away from the deal. But if you engage investors and start going through a due diligence process, which is what we did, lawyers become involved, and lawyers aren't cheap.
Yeah.
And we ended up walking away from the deal, and we walked away, and essentially we owed like £25,000.
Oh.
And we just lost the brand.
Oh Lord.
So we had no brand, had really no sales. Yeah. There was like a intermediate brand that we just thought we need to throw something up so that people want to buy, they can kind of buy it. We'd basically kind of all the money we thought was coming wasn't going to come in anymore. And we had that money to pay back.
Shit.
Like really bad, but we made the decision based on like essentially how much money would we owe, how much money could we get our hands on through like soft loans and stuff like that, and maybe some grants and stuff.
Yeah.
And worked out that if we did everything absolutely perfectly, we could get to market with like £2,000 spare. And by the way, we weren't going to pay ourselves either, so we kind of lived out of, there's a hotel, I think it's either changed from Mercure to the Ramada or vice versa on Ingram Street, and that basically was our office.
All right.
One summer for 3 or 4, and David and I would go and order a black coffee and a water, and sit and just do stuff, right?
Yeah,
it was grim. And so that happened in September 2014, and but that all happened, and we were like, we just need to try and make it happen now. We get money to pay, and we just need to keep on going now. So 4 or 5 weeks later, there was going to be a trade show in Cannes in France.
Yeah.
Right. It was a big fair every year, TFWA, and we were like, we just need to go for it. But like Cannes not cheap.
Yeah.
And like the Travel Retail Festival makes more money for Cannes than the film festival does, because you've got Bacardi, you've got Heineken, all the like drinks brands, cosmetics, all the biggest brands in the world are there. And we went through, so basically it was like 4 or 5 weeks of like trying to maybe come up with a brand and stuff, and come up with the packaging, build the website and so on. And like when it came to kind of deciding on the name, we had literally in our office, it must have been 1,000 names on the sticky whiteboards, the kind of static sticky whiteboards put up on the walls. Literally, like, must have been over 1,000 variations of like everything, and really like really abstract stuff to just really like scarf pillow and really just like right.
Obvious, yeah.
And but we knew we didn't want to just create a product. We knew we wanted to create a brand because we had that goal in mind. We wanted to create something that could mean something and we could add meaning to. Yeah. And so I think David put it on, and so what happened was we got all our friends in a room, had all these names on the wall, bought lots of pizza and beer, and just started like talking, trying to vote and stuff like that. And then David put it on, and one of our friends was like, "Oh, it kind of looks like a turtleneck," and we were like, "Turtle, that's quite cool." And then it kind of came from that. Right. And it started to kind of come from, and we had all the kind of stuff that you were talking about came off the back of that, because it's definitely stuff that we thought about. Yeah. But that's really where it came from, was like that original thing.
Does this make it royalties, or what? Do you like? Are you getting a credit on the website somewhere?
Lots of hugs and the occasional pint. Yeah, that's where the name came from and stuff, and that's how we came up with it. And then I think the kind of journey to like Cannes was like, I think we were like 2 or 3 days from going. We had to decide if we were going to do it, but we'd spent a lot of time just like coming up with a brand that we didn't have time to like sort out meetings and stuff. Yeah. And we so literally €300 between the two of us went out, did it, decided to go for it. There's a bus that the trade show run between Nice and Cannes, and we're the two first people on this bus. And this guy comes on the bus and he's like, "How you doing, guys?" in an English accent, and I'm like, "Oh my god, he speaks English. This guy needs to be my best pal." Yeah. And for the 45-minute journey between Nice and Cannes, we were just like really politely harassing this guy and saying, "Do you want to try it on?" He's like, "No, I'm good." And I'm like, you look quite tired." No, I'm good. You sure? This is quite a good time for a nap. So eventually tried it on, liked the product. And then we got off the bus in the centre of Cannes. He was like, "Do you want to come for some drinks? It's Sunday, 1 o'clock, why not?" And we were like, "Yeah, but hopefully you're paying for the drinks, because we've got €300. Yeah. Like, we need to make this last a week." And so we go for drinks. His partner turns up, Ro. She's lovely, and was kind of chatting to us and kind of giving us advice and saying, "You need to meet such and such and try this, try that." We end up picking up the bill, and it was like basically €40 or something like that. So it was like 20% of budget, like God, for the whole week. And then we started the walk, so we couldn't stay in Cannes, obviously. So we stayed in like Cannes Mandalou, which the pronunciation is definitely off. It was a 2-mile walk from there outside to the hotel. So we got there and stuff, and it was basically every day was like a 2-mile walk in our suits from back and forth. And so the first day we get there, no one wants to talk to us because they've got their diaries been booked up for months. Yeah. No one's got time. And yeah, just like no one wants to chat. Like no one cares at all. And so it was basically a couple of days of that. The second day we're walking back, and about halfway into the walk, got a phone call, and Steve, and he's like, "How you doing?" Like, "Yeah, good. You enjoying the show?" "Yeah, it's brilliant. It's really good, meeting lots of great people." And he's like, "What are you doing tonight?" And we're like, "Oh, quite busy actually. Why are you asking?" He's like, "You're free. You should come and meet me, and we'll go for some drinks. For some drinks." "Okay. We'll see what we can do." So we go and meet him, and he literally hands us these 2 golden envelopes, right? Okay. And so. And after a couple of days of the show, every year they have a kind of opening event in the Carlton Hotel in Cannes, which is right on the promenade, right on the beach. And these were tickets to that. And awesome. I was walking. It was literally Lamborghinis sitting outside. I walk into the Carlton Hotel, like it's proper Casino Royale, like Monaco type stuff, right? It's really nice. Fantastic. Walking into the hotel. It's crystal chandeliers every kind of square metre, the best finger food you could ever imagine, like beef Wellington, lobster, champagne, as much as you want to drink. Great evening, but really within that evening, we networked with everyone we needed to network that night. Met so many people, right? And
was it a free bar?
It was a free bar.
That's good.
It was good.
Make up that
totally,
that original $20.
we also met a lot of distributors and kind of retailers. We met travel bloggers as well.
Okay.
They then wrote a couple of pieces about us, and kind of the following March started to drive a little bit of traffic through the website.
Yeah.
Just understood what that meant in terms of margin and potential growth and stuff like that, if we could drive enough traffic. And then we started doing more of that in terms of travel blogger outreach.
Yeah.
And then a blog picked us up from that. The Huffington Post picked us up, and this is 2015 in June. And we were maybe selling like 4 or 5 units a day.
Yeah.
They posted it on their website. We were selling 4 or 5 units an hour, and then they shared it on our Facebook page before I went to bed. And I had the PayPal on my phone, and it was anytime we got a sale, my phone would be like ding, ding, and they shared it on the Facebook page, and literally it was like ding, 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 like that. It went crazy, and we sold like just shy of 1,000 units in 8 hours, and that was the game. That was the thing that changed the whole game, because we were like, oh my god, this is epic, and like we managed to pay back all our debts and stuff, and that was the kind of the game changing moment for the business, because we understood the value there and the opportunity, and it was about, okay, how do we go and maximise this
Capitalise on
opportunity?
this.
But I mean, it's an incredible story, purely from the perspective of most sane and rational people would have gone, we can't afford to do this.
And
like, we
buckle
can't
that
afford
pressure.
to go to Cannes and do this trade show because we don't have enough money for a living.
Yeah.
and it's a huge risk. But that single risk that you took is one of the defining moments of your business, which changed what was a relatively poor situation into a very positive situation.
Yeah, I think it's like about. I think you really need to understand, like, we were both always quite reflective over what we wanted and also what we didn't want.
Yeah.
And we really clearly understood what we didn't want to happen as well as what we did.
Yeah.
So you need something to like run away from, and you need something to like run towards, right? So other people have kind of talked about this as well, and you need a force to pull you and a force to push you, and it didn't seem like a risk to us because we just had to try, because the biggest thing was like, I know how much I would have beaten myself up by not trying.
Yeah.
And we would have found a way. I would have found a way if it didn't work to pay back the money and all this kind of stuff. We would have got a job and done things, and but that filter for us, we didn't see it as a risk at that time. Definitely was, right? But we knew it was something we had to try and do, and I think we were lucky because our mums and dads and brothers and sisters backed us.
Yeah.
Do you think if you were on your own as a founder, that decision would have been much harder to do, or do you think that being a pair, you were like, we need to do this? Yeah, we need to do this.
I think what was great about it was, I think it's easier when you've got a team, definitely, because you're backed, and when you when you collectively make a decision, you have that much more conviction behind what you're doing. So yeah, I don't know if we would have been different, or would have done things differently, or the same things or whatever. But because we wrestled with certain problems a lot, we worked through the problem really in a really in-depth way, really thoroughly. So it meant that when we made a decision to go for it, we were just like, right, cool, and we went for it.
People have asked us whenever we've spoken about there being two of us, and I'm sure you've had a similar experience of it, the value of having two exclusively, in my mind, from the beginning for us was, whenever you felt like you were bitching out, the other person was there to call you out on it, and you have to put all of your problems on the table together, and you need to both be honest with each other about the things that you're saying, because it's very clear to me when Nana's talking shit, and it's very clear to him when I'm talking shit.
Very rarely.
No comment.
So you can clearly pick up when the other person isn't comfortable with the idea, so therefore you get to flesh it out and have that conversation. Which, even in the small amount of time when Nana goes on holiday or when I go on holiday, we have the opposite effect, where you have to then come into work every day and think about it yourself, and it can be quite an internal dialogue with you and you alone. So for that, you've gone through that transition of going from 2 to 1 and being the figurehead for the business. So how's that been? Have you had to draw on other people to kind of bring that
Definitely.
conversation back in?
I think one of the things is that I'm very lucky because I had a great person to go and start the business with.
Yeah.
And I think the openness of conversation that he and I had meant that when it did end and he wanted to leave and do other things, it ended in a really good way that worked for everyone. And I think that's really important because we both were clear on what we wanted to do with our lives.
Yeah.
And you only get one life. So
exactly.
So there's that. I think I'm really lucky because the network that we were pulled into with the Princess Trust, we met some great people, and one of our mentors there ended up putting a little bit of money into the business and becoming a shareholder. So Stuart's now involved in the business every day and as our chairman and stuff like that. So I definitely lean on him for things.
Yeah.
And he's had experiences and is further along in the journey, and there's stuff that he can bring to the table that is really, really, really valuable and is very entrepreneurial. So is very creative around how we approach problems, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've been able to grow the company to the extent we have without any VC funding, any bank funding.
Yeah.
Again, something really proud of.
Yeah,
and but I think that there was definitely I guess the journey. I only feel like so that's probably about 18 months now. I only really feel that I've been able to adjust to it now, and literally I would say I feel like I've really only kind of got it together in the last 3 months.
Fair enough.
Literally, because at the same time we were going through the journey of going from being a startup company to going to becoming an SME and a proper business and more of a scale up and all that, and that journey is not easy because changes need to happen, and you need to be adopting processes, and mindset needs to change, and the habits that were beneficial for you in the early days, it was scrappy and all that, and just kind of trying to make the sale, that isn't as effective as you get bigger. Me speaking to the digital marketing person within the business every day, I was in 2017, is probably not as effective now as it was back then. It's probably should be once every 3 days or something like that, because actually if I do it every day I'm just interrupting them. But I think that any time you need to evolve as a person, it's not easy, because you're having to you maybe have 10 habits, for example, just to pick a number, and you might need to not do 3 or 4 things that you're doing habitually, so you're doing things subconsciously, and you need to identify those things and stop doing them and replace them with more not better, but more kind of fit for the moment, more relevant habits.
More effective.
I've got something in there that I'm curious to see what your opinion is of it. So I think maybe 2 to 3 years ago there was a big push in this hustle culture and just grind to the bone and get it done. And obviously being a CEO of a growing company, in the situation you're in, you're going to be working a lot, I imagine. Yeah. But also your whole company is based around the idea that sleep's really important. Yeah. So how do you balance that? Or do you have a rule for yourself, this is what I'm going to put into this, and these are the things I'm willing to sacrifice, and these are the things I'm not willing to sacrifice? So
there's definitely been some occasions where I've been quite off brand and lacking of sleep. But I think sleep's really important. I think that's something that you need to. It's almost like you go through a journey of you're making lots of little decisions right at the start, and some big ones as well. But you're making the full range of it all. And I think you go through a journey of making 4 or 5. It becomes making 4 or 5 really important decisions and making the right decision. Yeah. And to be able to do that, you need to be in the right headspace. You need to be looking after yourself, self-care, making sure you get enough exercise, enough sleep, eating right. Because if you're growing a business and you're ambitious, you're essentially an athlete. You operate like an athlete. You operate at a really high level. You make sprints every day.
Yeah.
when other people maybe walk.
Yeah.
And you need to be ready for that. And that's a muscle that becomes, I think, easier with time as well. And I think that I think you kind of go through a journey as well as you get older of maybe when you're 18 there's 10 things that you think are really important to you, and when you get to 32 you realise actually, you know what, those 5 things don't matter, but these 5 things do. And maybe when you're 60 it's like, actually, do you know what, I like those other 2 things, but it's actually these 3 things that are really important to me. So I do work really hard, and I try and learn a lot, and I read a lot, and I talk to people a lot, and I try and network like enough. I feel like I've got better at prioritising my time a lot more. But you know, fundamentally I just want to be, you know, when seeing that entrepreneur when he spoke to our class, I was a guy that lived life to the full. He had all the stories.
Yeah.
But he'd also had a great family life.
Yeah.
And so he was a great husband, great dad. And that was clearly really important to him. And family and friends are really important to me. Those are relationships that I want to protect and cherish and nourish and grow and stuff.
Actually, yeah.
And but I love the whole journey and the whole challenge of like growing a business and being innovative and being creative, because you're not boxed in. I think one of my big realizations, and it's going to sound a little bit cheesy, but one of my big realizations over the last 4 or 5 months is that with enough time and if you are practical,
Yeah.
and really, really, really open-minded, you can achieve anything you want to achieve. You need to choose what you want to achieve, but the scope of what you can achieve is significant, and you don't even need to have it all figured out right now. And I think that's an incredibly like intoxicating thought. And I think, but you know, I love that, and I love that journey. And I think for me, like, I know that if I didn't give it my all and give it the best shot, then I would regret that. So I don't want to have that. So I want to go for it, but I don't want to there's certain things I won't sacrifice.
Yeah.
But there's certain
You got to know where that line is, right?
You
need to know where you're.
What do you need and what's nice to have, and getting rid of what as much as what. If you want to be really good at something, you do need to be really like decisive around that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you need to discipline yourself, right? You need to discipline yourself to what's important and not focus on things not let things that aren't important get in the way, but you need to know what's important to be able to focus on it. Mm-hmm. And I think I understand where you're coming from in that perspective. Like you start to narrow that down as you get a little bit older, and you start to realize actually these things that I thought were important that I was spending time on, they're actually not important. And you now need to focus on the things that are, and that gives you a clearer field of view. But it must be, from everything you've said so far, it sounds to me like one of the things that defines you as a person is your willingness or your openness to learn new things. Because I think a lot of people talk about it and they say, like, read books, you know, like that guy on YouTube, Ty Pendington, the guy who has a Lamborghini and all the books in the background. I'm never really convinced that people who read books say that they read as much as they do. But from everything I've heard from you, you seem like you are the sort of person that strives to find out more about everything they're doing. If it's simply a better understanding how to market, you're going to invest your time to learn how to do that. Yeah. And then you're going to take as much knowledge as you can from other people, from the books that you read. If you were going to be, if you were sitting in front of somebody and they asked you what is the books, I'm not going to restrict you to one because I don't think that's reasonable, the books that changed your perspective on the world, what would they be?
Oh man, so I think there's loads of books, but like I'm a massive fan of sport. I love sport, and I love sport played well, and like, so a team that really, so I mean, if you watch like Federer or Nadal or Murray, you know, in his prime playing tennis, it's a wonderful thing to watch. If you watch like Brazil, you know, when 10 years ago when Ronaldo played and that team, like, it was just amazing to watch, like Barcelona and stuff like that. So like Messi at his best. But you know, one team I look at and I think it's amazing are the All Blacks. And so there's a book called Legacy, and it's you know, there's kind of books that a lot of people have read. So there's like, you know, Good to Great, Start with Why. I think it's like Man's Search for Meaning with Viktor Frankl. You know, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which is quite a good like kind of philosophy book. Because I think philosophy is quite interesting. Because specifically on that, philosophy is interesting because I think business books give you the answer. I think psychology books are kind of like step up from that, and I think philosophy doesn't give you the answer, but it makes you riddle the problem from many, many different angles. Yeah. And it's the total like stereotypical, like, you know, Kill Bill, sensei says something, you're like, that doesn't make sense, but then for the person to overcome the obstacle, it makes sense and they get it and then they can move forward. That's the whole philosophy thing, I think. But so I try and read as much as that as I can, but I think and I definitely go through like phases as well where I'm like, I read a lot and then all of a sudden I can't do that anymore. I need to like do other stuff, and I'll read about history or, you know, and you know, when I was in London maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I went down a day early and I went to see the British Library. There was like Bill Gates owns one of the notebooks for one of Da Vinci's notebooks. Oh yeah, and you can go and look at it. Okay, and he's like the original polymath and the guy who was the first man to be, or not the first man, but one of the first known man to be like, you know, multidisciplinary. You know, he was an artist, but he was an engineer, and combining those things I think was really interesting. There's a really good biography by him by Walter Isaacson as well. Legacy is amazing because Legacy cites a lot of the books that people have read in kind of popular culture. So like Start with Why, Good to Great, you know, Man's Search for Meaning, all those things. But what I love is like how much that sport means to that country and the understanding of the responsibility that the players have to represent their country. Yeah. And there's things like, it also talks about how they evolved the culture within the All Blacks. So the All Blacks were always like the best team. Like no one could ever doubt that. John Olomu, like incredible, right? But they never won a World Cup. They won the first World Cup and they went a long time without winning a World Cup. And Richie McCaw was the captain. And in 2007, they were favourites to win it, and they went out the quarterfinals. They were consistently bottling it essentially every time. So they were the peak team between World Cups. It came to the moment, and they were not up for that moment, right? And what they realised was their culture was wrong. They didn't have a winning mentality, and there was just things they needed to change. And Legacy is about that journey that they went through from 2004. Really through 2007 to winning it in 2011, and last year they were the last World Cup, not this one, but in 2015 they were the first team to retain it. It goes through that whole journey, and one of the things was, so they had a drinking culture, so they had to get rid of that. They had really great players, but not everyone was the right fit for the culture. So one of their things is like no dickheads. Like regardless of how good you are. That's literally one of the things they say. One of the things I love is like even like so Dan Carter is one of the best you know, standoffs ever. Him and Richie McCaw I think have won their World Player of the Year like 3 times, but Dan Carter and Richie McCaw would clean up. If they were in the visitor changing room, they would clean up. So they wouldn't wait for the cleaning people to come in and clean. They would clean up after themselves. So that kind of understanding of humility and stuff. And then but how the culture changed was interesting. So like one of the things we were looking at is they actually were, so the haka's like really famous, but they were looking at basically getting rid of the haka because they were chatting to the whole team, and some people were like, yeah, no, I love it, I feel really patriotic, and other people were like, actually, do you know what, like I want to get the camera out of my face and I want to play rugby. And what had happened when they started to dig at that was, over the previous 20 years, there was like an influx of people coming into the country from Polynesia, so from Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, and what the haka was saying, because essentially like a kind of a dance for preparing for battle. What the haka was saying didn't mean anything to people from Tonga, Samoa, and Fiji, for example, right? So there was a point in time when I was watching it just as like someone who loves sport before I read this book, and I was like, they changed the haka, what's going on here? But the reason why they changed it is because they wanted to they wanted it to mean something that was relevant to everyone within the team.
Okay.
To properly, so the country had changed, the culture of the country had changed. They changed the haka to be more representative of the country, to what mattered to them. And I just think that's epic. And there was so that whole change is really cool. So it's representative of how people need to change, and how companies need to change, and how society needs to change, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but one of our things is that they always talk about the importance of ancestry and the importance of leaving the world in a better place than you found it, and the importance of, like, if I'm the number 9 for the All Blacks, I understand who wore this jersey before I was here. It's my job to leave it in a better place than which I found it.
Okay, that's cool.
I think it's epic.
That's really cool. So that's definitely one that we'll need to pick up and
it's really easy to read as well. It's really cool. It's a really good book.
Okay, so Legacy.
All
right, excellent. We'll put a link to that in the description of the video. People can find it. I think this has kind of come to the end of the time. I'm going to be honest, I didn't cover everything that I want, so I'm going to hold you to having to come back on at some point in the near future to go into a little bit of depth onto some other areas, but I like to keep it to an hour, for like that commute time to make sure that somebody doesn't have to pick up halfway through at lunch. But thank you so much for coming on. I think there's a lot of things to really unpack there and take the time to kind of understand, and look forward to seeing what comes next.
Cool. Thank you for having me. Thank you.